We've all heard the advice: have an emergency fund saved up in case of a rainy day. But what does that actually mean? And how much should you have saved up? An emergency fund is a savings account that you use to cover unexpected expenses. This could be anything from a car repair bill to a medical expense. Emergencies can happen at any time, so it's important to have some money saved up specifically for this purpose. In this video, we will discuss what an emergency fund is, why it matters, and why you need to start building your emergency fund today. What is an emergency fund and what does it do? An emergency fund is money that you have saved up specifically for emergencies. This could be a car repair, a medical bill, or some other unexpected expense. It's important to have an emergency fund because if something unexpected happens, you'll have the money to cover it. An emergency fund is a great way to avoid financial disaster if something unexpected happens. Why do you need an emergency fund? Think you're too young or too broke to need an emergency fund? Think again. Everyone, regardless of their age or income level, should have an emergency fund to cover unexpected expenses. No one knows when a financial emergency will hit. That's why it's important to have an emergency fund set aside, so you're prepared for anything that comes your way. Having an emergency fund will give you peace of mind and will actually help you to save money in the long run. Instead of using a high-interest loan or credit cards in the event of an emergency, you can use your emergency fund to help alleviate any issues that may arise. How to build up your emergency fund? An emergency fund is simply a savings account that has enough money to cover your expenses for 3 to 6 months in case of an unexpected event such as a job loss or any other emergency that will significantly impact your financial health. It can be helpful to think of this money as a safety net in case of tough times. To build an effective emergency fund, become disciplined with your spending. You can start by saving as little as $20 to $50 a paycheck or even saving 5 to 10% of your income for any emergencies. How to use your emergency fund in a crisis. Nobody ever plans on having a financial emergency, but they do happen. If you're not prepared, it can be difficult to get through a crisis without going into debt. Only use funds from your emergency fund in the case of a real emergency. Not having enough money to buy an item you want online or at the mall is not a legitimate reason to use your emergency fund, no matter how hard you try to justify this to yourself. Stay diligent in building and using your emergency fund, and before you know it, you will have extra money to splurge on luxury items you may want in the future. When you have an emergency fund, you don't have to worry about going into debt or using your credit card to pay for unexpected costs. Instead, you can draw on the money that you've saved specifically for emergencies. If you don't have an emergency fund, now is the time to start building one. It may take a little bit of time and effort, but it's worth it in the long run. Thanks for watching, and for more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for notifications on future videos. See you in the next video. Until next